It was an ordinary day in the command center of the Starship Pioneer. The crew went about their usual tasks, monitoring distant stars, calibrating systems, and preparing for the long voyage ahead. But then, the unexpected happened. A strange signal, faint but unmistakable, broke through the constant hum of the ship's communication system. At first, it was nothing more than static, random, and indecipherable. But then, just as the crew began to dismiss it, a word cut through the noise, sharp, clear, and haunting. "You've doomed yourselves." Captain Elias Finch, sitting at the front of the bridge, froze in his chair. His eyes narrowed as he stared at the source of the message. It had been picked up by the ship's deep space scanners, coming from Earth's coordinates. Earth, the home planet of humanity, now a distant memory after the wars, the environmental collapse, and the failed attempts to save the world. It had been years since the planet had been abandoned. So, who would send a message from there? And why? "Run the signal through the translator," Captain Finch ordered, his voice steady despite the unease creeping up his spine. He tried to focus on the task at hand, but the words repeated in his mind. "You've doomed yourselves." Lieutenant Zara, the ship's communications officer, swiftly worked at her station. The room fell silent, the only sound the rapid tapping of keys and the soft hum of the ship's systems. She turned back to the captain after a few moments, her face pale. "Sir, it's no mistake. The signal, it's from Earth. But the message doesn't match any known communication patterns. It's like a distress signal, but not one we've ever seen before." The captain frowned. He had heard rumors of strange occurrences, whispers of transmissions that weren't supposed to exist, but he'd dismissed them as rumors. This, though, was real. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Earth was a place that humans had left behind years ago, a place they had abandoned in hopes of finding a new home among the stars. Yet now, it was calling them back, insisting that something had gone horribly wrong. "We're heading to Earth," Captain Finch declared, his voice firm. "Set course. We need to find out what this message really means. Prepare for a long journey." As the ship adjusted its course, a wave of uncertainty washed over the crew. They had never expected to return to Earth. It had been abandoned, left to rot in the endless vacuum of space. The idea of going back felt like opening a door to a forgotten chapter of history, a chapter they were not sure they were ready to face. The stars outside the viewport stretched into long lines as the ship accelerated, but in the back of their minds, the message lingered. Who had sent it? And what did it mean for the future of humanity? The Pioneer hummed as it accelerated toward Earth's coordinates, the silence on the bridge thick with anticipation. Captain Elias Finch stood near the command center, staring out the viewport. The stars streaked past like blurred lines, and a sense of dread settled over him. He had led many missions, but this one felt different. It wasn't just the unknown signal. They were heading back to a planet that had been abandoned for years, a place that, to many, had been forgotten. Lieutenant Zara, the communications officer, kept a close eye on the ship's scanners. "Captain, we're approaching Earth's orbit," she reported, her voice tight with tension. "But something's not right. There's interference in the system. I'm having trouble getting a clear reading." "Explain," Finch ordered, trying to suppress the unease in his voice. Zara's fingers flew over the controls, her brow furrowed in concentration. "The entire sector is fluctuating. The readings are all over the place. It's as if Earth itself is disrupting our sensors. There's a pattern, but it doesn't match anything we've encountered before." The captain turned to the view screen. Earth's blue and green hue was barely visible against the black of space. It looked almost peaceful from this distance, but Finch knew better. The stories of the planet's fall were well known across the galaxy. Wars, environmental collapse, and mass evacuations. Earth had become a symbol of humanity's failure. "We're not getting close enough to investigate without risking the ship," Zara added, her voice shaking slightly. "I suggest we proceed with caution, Captain." Finch thought for a moment, weighing the options. Full scan. Prepare for surface descent. We're going in. Whatever's happening there, we need answers." The crew members exchanged nervous glances. Earth was a place they had all heard about but never seen, a planet no one dared to return to. But now, they had no choice. They had to know who had sent that message and why. As the Pioneer entered the orbit of Earth, the interference grew stronger. The ship's systems sputtered, and lights flickered briefly. It was as though the planet itself was fighting back, rejecting the ship's presence. "Captain," Zara said, her voice tight, "we're getting a signal again, the same one. But now it's clearer. It's coming from the surface. Someone, or something, wants us to land." Finch's heart raced. The mystery deepened. "Land, but stay in orbit for now. I want a full visual confirmation of where this signal is coming from." The crew continued to monitor the systems as they circled above the planet. The surface was desolate. Oceans were reduced to barren, cracked lands, and the remains of once thriving cities stood like silent tombstones, overrun by the unforgiving forces of nature. "We're almost there, Captain," Zara said, adjusting the sensors. "The signal is stronger now. It's coming from beneath the surface." "Beneath the surface?" Finch asked, raising an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" Zara turned toward him, her face pale. "I mean, there's something down there. And I don't think it's just a transmission. Someone, or something, has been waiting for us." The air on the bridge seemed to freeze. Whatever awaited them on Earth, it was far beyond what they. The Pioneer hovered silently above Earth, its engines humming softly as it maintained its position in orbit. Captain Elias Finch stood by the viewport, staring down at the planet below. Earth, once vibrant and full of life, now seemed like a shadow of its former self. The land was scared, with vast stretches of barren desert where forests once stood, and oceans that had turned murky and polluted. The cities, once bustling with people, were now in ruins, empty shells of human achievement, slowly being overtaken by nature's relentless march. This is nothing like the Earth we were taught about," muttered Lieutenant Zara, her eyes wide as she observed the planet from the bridge. The readings on her screen were confusing, almost like the planet had been left in a state of suspended decay. "It's worse than I thought," Captain Finch said quietly. His voice was filled with disbelief. "I had heard the stories, but seeing it firsthand is different." Zara's hands trembled slightly as she worked the controls. "The signal is still coming from down there, Captain. Stronger now. It's almost like it's guiding us." Finch's mind raced as he considered the possibilities. What could be down there? Who, or what, had left this signal? It was clear that the Earth was not as abandoned as it seemed. There was something, or someone, waiting. "Take us lower. We need to find the source of that signal," Finch ordered. The ship descended slowly, the damaged surface of Earth becoming clearer as they neared the ground. The landscape was pockmarked with craters and twisted metal from the past. It was like a war-torn battlefield, but one that had lasted for decades. The scars of humanity's failure were everywhere. As they approached the coordinates given by the signal, the crew's nerves were on edge. The tension in the air was palpable. What if they were walking into a trap? What if whatever had sent the signal was hostile? There were too many unknowns, but they had come this far, and there was no turning back now. Approaching the signal's origin, Zara reported. "It's coming from beneath a large facility, underground. We'll need to land near the entrance." Finch nodded, his mind sharp with focus. "Land as close as possible, but stay alert. I want the crew ready for anything." The Pioneer touched down gently on the cracked earth, the metal of the ship groaning slightly as it made contact with the surface. The team was already preparing to disembark, their faces tense and determined. Finch felt a rush of uncertainty in his chest. They were standing on the threshold of something monumental, something that could change everything. As the airlock opened and the crew stepped out, they were greeted by an eerie silence. The facility that lay ahead of them was massive, its entrance buried beneath layers of earth, as though it had been hidden intentionally. No signs of life were visible, but the signal still pulsed in the air, urging them forward. "This is it," Finch whispered to himself. "The last message from Earth." The team advanced carefully, the eerie silence surrounding them as they moved deeper into the unknown. They had come to find answers, but what they would find here could either save humanity or doom it forever. The team moved cautiously toward the entrance of the underground facility. The air was thick with dust, and the silence was almost unbearable. Every footstep echoed as they crossed the barren landscape, and the darkness of the facility loomed ahead like a monster waiting to be unleashed. Captain Finch led the group, his hand resting lightly on the weapon at his side, but his mind was focused on the signal that had led them here. "I've never seen anything like this," Lieutenant Zara whispered, her voice barely audible. "This place looks ancient, like it was built to last centuries." Finch nodded, his thoughts racing. Whatever happened here, it's clear they didn't want anyone to find this place. The entrance to the facility was covered in layers of thick metal, rusted and worn from time and neglect. But despite its decay, the massive door seemed intact. A small panel beside it flickered to life as they approached, the signal that had guided them here emanating from within. It seemed to be calling them, urging them forward. Zara stepped forward cautiously and began to work on the panel. "This technology, it's like nothing we've seen. It's older, but it's advanced too." With a soft hiss, the massive door began to slide open, revealing the dark interior. A cold breeze rushed out, carrying the faintest smell of old machinery and the musty scent of decay. Finch's heart raced. This was it. This was the place. The crew stepped inside, the dim lights flickering on as they entered. The facility stretched out before them, empty, silent, but somehow alive with the energy of a past long forgotten. Steel walls lined the corridors, and strange symbols adorned the floors and ceilings, signs of a civilization that had once flourished here. It was clear that humans had not built this place, but who had? They moved through the facility in silence, their footsteps muffled by the dust-covered floors. As they turned a corner, they stumbled upon a large room, its walls covered in monitors and strange alien machinery. The signal was stronger here, pulsating through the air like a heartbeat. This is the source," Finch said, stepping forward. He approached a central console, its display flickering to life as soon as he touched it. A soft, mechanical voice echoed in the room. "Humanity, you've doomed yourselves." The words, once faint, were now clear and undeniable. Finch's heart sank. The message was real. The aliens had left this message for humanity, and it was a verdict, a judgment. The past was now revealed. Another voice, one with a strange, almost sorrowful tone, followed. "We warned you. You were given a chance, but you refused to change. The destruction you wrought on your world cannot be undone. Earth is no longer your home." The crew stood frozen, unable to move or speak. The alien voice continued, telling the story of Earth's final days, their final attempt to save humanity from itself. They had tried to intervene, to offer aid, but humanity had rejected it time and again, clinging to their self-destructive ways. The truth hit them like a physical blow. The message wasn't just a warning. It was a judgment on everything humanity had done. They had truly doomed themselves. "We need to hear the rest of it," Finch whispered, his voice tight. He felt the weight of the words, heavy and suffocating. He had no idea what would happen next, but he knew one thing. Humanity's future would never be the same. The room was heavy with silence after the alien voice faded into the air. The crew stood still, their minds reeling with the words they had just heard. Captain Finch's gaze lingered on the flickering screen, his thoughts a whirlwind of disbelief and dread. "You've doomed yourselves." The message kept echoing in his mind, each repetition heavier than the last. "I don't understand," Lieutenant Zara stammered. "Why would they let Earth fall? If they were trying to help, why didn't they do more?" Finch's eyes narrowed as he absorbed the information. The message says they tried, but they could only offer so much before humanity's own nature took over. He ran a hand over his face, trying to make sense of the words. The warning was clear. Earth's fate had been sealed by humanity's inability to change. Wars, pollution, greed, all had played their part. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. It was one thing to hear about Earth's destruction, but standing here, in this abandoned facility, in the heart of humanity's failure, was something else entirely. It felt like a weight on their shoulders, a burden they hadn't asked for but now had to carry. "I know you're all thinking the same thing," Finch said, his voice low. "But we're here now. There has to be more to this than just the message. We can't turn back now." They continued to explore the facility, their footsteps echoing in the vast empty space. Each new room seemed to hold more secrets, more forgotten pieces of the past. Strange symbols and alien technology lined the walls, a reminder that humans had never fully understood what had happened here. They had been too busy destroying their world to notice the help that had been offered, until it was too late. As they reached the deepest part of the facility, they discovered a small chamber. In the center, a strange, glowing orb rested on a pedestal, humming with energy. It looked ancient, yet powerful, its surface shifting like liquid metal. This is it," Zara whispered, stepping forward. "This must be the key. This is what they left behind." Captain Finch moved closer, his mind racing. Was this some kind of alien artifact? Could it be the key to saving humanity, or was it just another part of the long list of failed attempts? He reached out and touched the orb, and immediately, the room was flooded with light. Images filled his mind, visions of a thriving Earth, full of life and promise. But then, the images shifted, turning dark and twisted. Cities burned, oceans rose, and the sky became choked with smoke. The future of Earth, in the blink of an eye, was gone. The orb pulsed, and Finch pulled his hand away, gasping for breath. His heart raced, the images still vivid in his mind. "Captain, what happened?" Zara asked, her voice trembling. Finch struggled to steady himself. "It showed me. It showed us the destruction. The consequences of our choices." His voice was tight, filled with the weight of what he had seen. "We were given every chance, and we failed." Zara looked at him, her eyes wide with fear and confusion. "So, what now? Is it over?" Finch stood tall, his mind made up. "No, it's not over. We still have a chance to prove them wrong. We still have a chance to change, but we need to act fast, and we need to be ready." The crew nodded, determined. Whatever it took, they wouldn't let humanity's last hope slip away. The crew stood in the center of the darkened chamber, the orb's soft hum echoing in their ears. The images that Captain Finch had seen still lingered in his mind, like ghosts of the Earth's past and its failed future. He stared at the orb, feeling a deep sense of responsibility settle on his shoulders. Whatever it was, this was humanity's last chance. "We can't just stand here," he said, his voice firm. "There has to be more. There has to be a way to reverse this." Lieutenant Zara nodded. "But how? We don't have the technology or the knowledge to undo what's been done." Finch turned to face the rest of the crew. "We've come this far. There has to be something else, something we're missing. We just need to find it." As they began to search the room once more, a low voice interrupted their thoughts. "You are not alone, human." The words seemed to come from the very walls, and for a moment, the crew froze, their hands instinctively going to their weapons. The voice, strange and alien, filled the room again. "I have been waiting for you." A figure emerged from the shadows, a being unlike any they had ever seen. It was tall, slender, with glowing eyes that seemed to pierce through the darkness. Its skin shimmered like starlight, and it moved with a grace that was almost otherworldly. Zara gasped. What are you?" The being stepped forward, its voice calm yet filled with an ancient sorrow. "I am what remains of those who once watched over your planet. I am the last of my kind, the last who cared enough to intervene." Captain Finch took a cautious step forward. "You knew. You knew this was going to happen, and you didn't stop it." The alien's eyes flickered with something akin to regret. "We tried. We offered guidance, technology, and knowledge. But your people, you were too proud, too stubborn. We warned you, but you refused to listen." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. The weight of those words pressed down on them. This being, this last remnant of an alien race, had been watching Earth's destruction for years. It had hoped humanity would change, but it had never given up on them. "I know what you must be thinking," the alien continued. "You believe that there is no hope left. But I see something in you, in humanity, that they do not see. You have the strength to rise from the ashes." Captain Finch stepped forward, his heart racing. "Then show us how. Show us how we can save Earth, how we can save ourselves." The alien studied him for a long moment, its eyes glowing softly. "I cannot do it for you, but I can help. I will share the knowledge that was hidden from your people. I will teach you how to undo the damage you've caused, how to rebuild what was lost. But only if you are willing to listen this time." Zora's voice trembled with disbelief. "You'll help us?" "Yes," the alien replied. "But there is a cost. The path ahead will be difficult. The mistakes of the past cannot be erased without sacrifice." The room grew quiet as the crew took in the gravity of the offer. This alien, this unlikely ally, was giving them a chance. A chance to prove that humanity could change, that they could fix what they had broken. "Are you willing to pay the price?" the alien asked. Captain Finch looked at his crew, their faces filled with determination. "We have no choice. We'll do whatever it takes." The alien nodded. "Then let us begin." The crew gathered around the alien, their faces filled with uncertainty and anticipation. The offer was clear. The alien would help them, but only if they were willing to sacrifice and do what it took to fix the damage humanity had caused. There was no going back now. "We don't have much time," Captain Finch said, his voice steady. "Earth is already on the brink. Whatever we do, it has to be fast." The alien nodded solemnly. "The path ahead is difficult, but you have one advantage that the rest of your kind didn't: your willingness to change." Finch glanced at his crew. They all stood in a tense silence, knowing that they were about to embark on a mission that could either save humanity or destroy it completely. This was their last chance to redeem everything they had lost. "I'll tell you what must be done," the alien continued, its voice calm and firm. "To restore Earth, you must reverse the damage done to its ecosystems. But it is not enough to simply restore the land. You must repair the damage to your people, their hearts, their minds. This will be the real challenge." Lieutenant Zora raised an eyebrow. "How do we do that? How do we fix people? We're not gods." The alien's glowing eyes softened slightly. "No, you are not gods. But you are capable of great things when you put aside your pride and work together. This will require sacrifice, effort, and unity. Your people must learn to live in balance with their world once more." Captain Finch's mind raced. The task ahead sounded impossible. Earth was not just a planet. It was a symbol of everything humanity had failed to understand. The alien spoke of restoring the ecosystem, but what about the broken hearts and minds of the people who had caused all of this? "What do you need us to do first?" Finch asked, his voice unwavering despite the weight of the decision. The alien extended a slender hand toward the orb they had discovered earlier. "This orb contains the key. It can restore the environment, but it needs to be activated in the place where the damage began, the heart of Earth. But it will require a human touch, a person who believes in the possibility of change." Zora glanced at Finch. "You're the one, aren't you? You've always been the one to lead us through impossible situations." Finch hesitated for a moment. The weight of responsibility was heavy on him, heavier than anything he had ever carried. But in that moment, something inside him shifted. This wasn't just about saving Earth. It was about saving humanity from itself. "I'll do it," Finch said, determination in his eyes. "I'll activate the orb. But we're all in this together. We have to make sure this works." The alien nodded. "You understand now. The path will be hard, and many will not believe in what you are trying to do. But you must stay united. The orb will guide you, but your strength will determine whether humanity survives or falls." The crew exchanged determined looks. This was the moment they had been waiting for. They were no longer just survivors. They were humanity's last hope. "We'll follow you," Zara said, her voice full of resolve. Finch turned to face the team. "Then let's begin." The crew moved forward, ready to face the difficult journey ahead. They knew that restoring Earth would take more than just the alien technology. It would take every ounce of their courage, their unity, and their willingness to fight for the future of their world. The Pioneer hovered silently above the heart of Earth, the site chosen to activate the orb and begin the process of restoration. The crew stood at the ready, their faces set with determination. The journey had been long, and the task ahead was nothing short of impossible. But they had come this far, and they couldn't afford to fail now. Captain Finch stood at the center of the ship's command bridge, staring out at the desolate planet below. The Earth they once knew was gone, replaced by a shattered world struggling to survive. But somewhere in that destruction, there was hope. The alien had told them that they could reverse the damage, but it would come at a cost. It always did. "Are we ready, Captain?" Zara asked, her voice steady but with an underlying tension. She was standing next to Finch, the weight of their mission heavy on both their shoulders. Finch nodded slowly. "We don't have a choice. We need to restore the Earth, not just for us, but for everyone who will come after us." He turned to face the crew. "I know the stakes are high, but we have a chance to do what no one thought possible. If we succeed, Earth can heal. Humanity can heal." The crew exchanged looks, some with uncertainty, others with a quiet resolve. This wasn't just a mission anymore. It had become a symbol, not only for the survival of the planet, but for the survival of humanity itself. "Let's move out," Finch commanded. The team moved with purpose, making their way toward the ship's exit. As they prepared to leave the Pioneer, Zara took a moment to glance back at Finch. "Are you sure about this, Captain? The alien said the orb needs a human touch. You don't think it'll be too much for one person to handle?" Finch paused for a moment, his eyes narrowing as he considered the weight of her words. He knew what the alien had meant. It wasn't just the orb that could restore Earth. The human element, the spirit of humanity, was just as important. But it wasn't only about the power of the orb. It was about leadership, about making the hard decisions. "I've made my peace," Finch said quietly. "I can't do this alone, but I can lead, and that's enough." With that, the team made their way toward the heart of the Earth, where the orb would be activated. It was a barren wasteland now, far from the lush green world they had once known. But it was still Earth, and it was still their home. When they reached the facility, Finch stepped forward. The orb, resting at the center of a large chamber, hummed softly, its light flickering in the dim room. "It's time," Finch said, his voice calm but filled with urgency. He approached the orb, placing his hands on its smooth surface. The moment his skin touched it, a surge of energy shot through him. His body stiffened, his mind flooded with visions of Earth's past, of its beauty, its mistakes, and its potential for change. Suddenly, the energy intensified, overwhelming him with its force. Finch gritted his teeth, struggling to stay conscious as the orb's power coursed through him. "Captain!" Zara shouted, but it was too late. Finch's body began to glow with the orb's energy, and he collapsed to his knees, his strength fading. The crew rushed to his side, but Finch managed to speak one last time, his voice barely audible. "It's done. The Earth will heal. And with that, Captain Elias Finch's body fell still, his sacrifice complete. The orb had been activated, and humanity's future had been sealed. Earth had been given another chance. Captain Elias Finch's sacrifice echoed in the hearts of his crew. His body lay still, but the energy from the orb pulsed with a life of its own, filling the room with a soft, warm glow. The crew stood around him, silent and heavy with grief. They had come to restore Earth, to save humanity's future, but at such a high cost. Finch had given everything, his life, so that the planet and its people could have another chance. Zara knelt beside Finch, her hand hovering over his lifeless form. "Captain, why did you have to?" Her voice cracked, but she didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. They all understood. Finch had known what needed to be done. He had given everything, and now Earth was in the hands of the living. "Get up," Lieutenant Cade said softly, his voice filled with quiet strength. "It's not over. The Earth is healing. We need to finish this." Zara wiped her tears away and nodded. The orb, still glowing, was their key. Finch had activated it, but there was more to do, much more. The orb wasn't just a tool for restoring Earth's environment. It was a symbol of humanity's potential to change, to rise from the ashes of their mistakes. Cade's words snapped them back to the present. They had a mission to complete, and Finch's sacrifice had to mean something. Together, they could honor it. The room around them began to hum with power as the orb's energy spread, coursing through the facility. Slowly, the walls of the chamber began to shift, revealing large screens that displayed Earth's battered ecosystem in real time. The planet's surface was scared, cities ruined, oceans polluted, but something was changing. The screens flickered, showing patches of green, cracks in the dry earth beginning to heal. "Look," Zara exclaimed, pointing at the screen. "It's working. The damage is starting to reverse." The crew gathered around the screens, watching in awe as Earth began to recover. The polluted waters slowly turned blue again, forests began to sprout from the barren land, and the once dry rivers filled with fresh water. The planet was healing itself, as if it had heard the plea of its people, echoing through time. But this wasn't just about fixing the environment. The crew knew that healing the planet meant healing humanity as well. They had to ensure that the lessons of the past weren't forgotten, that the mistakes made by previous generations wouldn't be repeated. The orb had started the process, but it would take years, maybe centuries, for Earth to fully recover. "This isn't just a victory for the planet," Cade said, his voice filled with conviction. "It's a victory for all of us. Finch gave his life to give us this chance. We can't waste it." Zara looked at her crew, their faces lit by the glow of the healing planet on the screens. "We won't waste it," she said, her voice steady now. "We'll rebuild. Together." And as the energy from the orb continued to flow through the Earth, the crew made a silent vow. They would work together to ensure that humanity never forgot what it had lost and what it had gained. The rebirth of Earth had begun, but it was just the beginning. The real challenge lay in making sure that humanity would learn, adapt, and live in harmony with the planet. The future was uncertain, but it was no longer hopeless. With Finch's sacrifice, Earth had been given another chance, and this time, humanity would not fail. The crew of the Pioneer stood on the observation deck, staring out at Earth as it slowly healed. The damage was still visible, the scars of humanity's mistakes deep in the soil and oceans, but where there had once been a bleak, barren world, there was now a glimmer of hope. Green patches dotted the once barren land, and the oceans were beginning to clear. The orb had set the process in motion, but it was up to humanity to keep it going. "We did it," Zara whispered, her voice filled with a mix of awe and disbelief. "We really did it." Finch was gone, but his sacrifice had not been in vain. The Earth was changing. The crew could see it on the screens, the steady progress as the planet began to heal itself. The once dead soil had sprouted life again, and animals, long thought extinct, were starting to return. It was as if the Earth was remembering what it once had been and trying to reclaim it. But the work wasn't over. The orb had given them a chance to restore the planet. But now, it was up to the people of Earth to learn from their past, to adapt and rebuild in harmony with the planet. The true challenge had only just begun. Captain Finch's words echoed in Zora's mind. We have to prove them wrong. We have to prove that humanity can change. The message was clear. It wasn't enough to fix the environment. They had to fix themselves. The Earth could heal, but only if humanity learned from its mistakes. Zara turned to the rest of the crew, her eyes meeting each of theirs. This is just the beginning, she said. We've been given a chance, but we can't waste it. We have to make sure that what happened before never happens again. Cade, who had been silent for most of the journey, nodded. We won't let Finch's sacrifice be in vain. We have a duty now, not just to Earth, but to everyone who's still alive. We have to make sure we don't repeat the same mistakes. The crew had witnessed the destruction of their world, but they had also seen its potential for renewal. They had the knowledge now, the understanding that their actions had consequences. They had the responsibility to rebuild not just the land, but their way of life. This time, we have to do it right, Zora added, her voice firm with conviction. We have to teach the next generation to live in balance with the world, to respect it. The crew made a silent pact. They would stay on Earth and help guide its recovery. They would work with the survivors, teaching them what they had learned, ensuring that humanity's second chance was not wasted. Earth would need time to heal, but with every new day, it would grow stronger. As they stood together, looking down at the planet they had saved, they knew that the road ahead would be long. But it was a road they would walk together, united in their mission to rebuild and protect the world they had almost lost. The sun rose over the horizon, casting a warm glow over the now breathing Earth. A new beginning had begun, not just for the planet, but for humanity itself.